everyone, what's up? Welcome to another meal idea recipe video where I'm going to share with you some no spend meal ideas. Now obviously I did spend money on these original ingredients, but what I decided to do this week to stretch my grocery budget just a little further is to go through our home and find things in our pantry, fridge, and freezer that I need to use up, things that have already been opened, things that I haven't used yet, and create some delicious meals. What I'm hoping to do is inspire you to do the same in your kitchen, so let's jump into recipe number one. I'm going to let you know right now that this is the best recipe in the entire video. So my friend Lauren texted me about a week ago and she had made a hummus pasta and she was like, you really need to try this. I know you really love pasta. And so I decided to dig out ingredients that I could put into a hummus pasta because I did have a hummus in my refrigerator that was about half empty. And now you can make homemade hummus if you'd like for this. I had already purchased store-bought hummus, so I decided to go with it and use a half a bag of frozen peppers and onions, a scallion that I found, and then some open spinach. And then the seasonings I'm going to use are garlic and onion. So I did roast my peppers and onion mix with the scallions. It gave it a lot of flavor, and I just sprinkled the garlic salt and onion powder over top of that. You can use any veggies that you want, but I thought this was a really good mix with the hummus. But like I said, anything that you have on hand that you want to use up for like either a leftover situation or something that's already been open like myself, you can make a really delicious meal. So I roasted these peppers at 450 degrees for about 6 minutes on the top shelf and they were delicious. I honestly feel like adding roasted peppers to any kind of pasta is amazing. I will link a video up in the corner above, in the right corner, of a bunch of pasta recipes that I did a couple of months ago. So definitely check those out when you're done with this video because there's one with roasted red peppers and it's so delicious. Sometimes you just need one of those really quick meals that you can throw together, and this is one of them. Definitely you can purchase these ingredients to make this, or you can figure out what you have on hand to make this yourself. Like I said, you could do a homemade hummus with just some chickpeas, maybe some mustard, tahini, sunflower butter. Somebody actually mentioned that in a video that I just put out, which actually sounds really good. Add some greens to it. Everybody always has pasta on hand, and mix it up, and this is so flavorful. And look how much food this made. This was coming out of basically nothing into something. Like I wasn't planning on making this week. It wasn't part of my meal plan on my 3-week grocery budget, but I did get an additional meal out of it using things up that I had around the house. Potatoes are always in abundance around our house, but I do always have this bucket of kind of ones that need to be used up. And I thought, you know, I don't have any plans for these this week. I am going to see what I can do with them. So I had some Japanese sweet potatoes and a regular sweet potato. I had this head of cauliflower and then some onions that desperately needed to be used up. I also decided to make a sauce. So with some water, I added some barbecue sauce, mustard, garlic salt, and onion powder. You don't have to use the water if you don't want to. I like to add a little additional water to kind of make my sauce a little bit saucier, and that way when I steam my veggies in the oven, the water kind of steams them and it cooks them a little faster, but you definitely don't have to do that. It's completely up to you. But I just made a quick sauce to pour over those chopped veggies. I popped them in my oven at 450 degrees for about 20 minutes, and it was just a really good tangy, mustardy, barbecue-y kind of summer flavor that added to these sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes and barbecue sauce is so good to me. I like russets and barbecue sauce too, but it just adds a different element of flavor when you add sweet potatoes. If you don't like a mustard-based barbecue sauce, you could go ahead and use anything else that you have on hand. I feel like we always have mustard on hand. I use it for so many different recipes, but this was so much food, just picking out different things that needed used up in my kitchen. Like I said, I roasted this at 450 degrees for about 20 minutes, and when it came out, it was so good. It just really had some summer vibes to it with that barbecue sauce. I feel like it was a really hefty meal with the potatoes, but also it had some veggies with the onions and the cauliflower. Meal number 3 is a poke bowl inspired meal. I always have leftover rice that I always need used up, and I try to get really experimental with it and think of different things. Of course, I cook it in my pressure cooker because it's my favorite way to cook rice. I did 2 cups of dry rice, which ends up being about 4 cups of cooked rice, and this was just enough for one meal for my husband and I. My rice cooks perfect in my pressure cooker on the rice button for 12 minutes. I love this thing. I don't know how I ever lived without it for so long. I also had about a quarter of a bag of frozen edamame that I wanted to use up, and since I was making rice, I thought, you know what, these will pair really well together. I brought them to a boil, and then I just sprinkled some garlic salt on them once they were kind of cooked up. I dug around in my cupboards, and I found this jar of pickled sliced beets, I guess a can rather, and then I also had some leftover tofu from the day before for lunch, and I decided to throw it together and kind of, like I said, make it a mock poke bowl, and this was really delicious. I also made a homemade sauce to go over the top of it. If you're not new here, you will notice this sauce. I use it all the time in so many recipes, but all I did was take some soy sauce and some hot spicy Southwest mustard, mix it up, and create a sauce, and it's so good with rice. And then once that is kind of left over, I mix it up and put it in the fridge. Okay, recipe number 4, I had this couscous that I've literally had in my cupboard for so long that I haven't used. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna get creative. I'm gonna figure out a way to use it. So I took a diced jar of tomatoes, and I made my homemade marinara sauce, which is just a little bit of garlic salt, onion powder, Italian seasoning, and nutritional yeast. I don't even measure it anymore. I just eyeball it, put it in the food processor, whip it up, and it makes this delicious marinara. I brought this marinara to a little bit of a simmer, kind of a boil, and then I added the couscous. If you've never made couscous, it's literally the simplest thing in the world. All you do is add about a cup to about 4 cups of liquid. You stir it around. Once that kind of comes to a boil, you pop a lid on it, take it off the heat, and it's perfection. And couscous has a really different texture. Obviously, it's like a tiny grain or a tiny pasta, but I never had it with just straight marinara. I usually have it with like a lemon sauce, but this was really good, really delicious, and I actually served this with some green beans. So it did have a veggie on the side. I just forgot to show you, but like I said, this is really delicious. Just the texture of it is really delicate and soft, and it was like almost creamy with the tomato sauce. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'll see you in my next one. Bye!